NBA Top 100 Players of 2019-2020, 50 through 26, by Panamaniac03. I've already gone through this introduction in the other videos, so I suggest that you go back and either listen to or read Panamaniac's earlier iterations of this article so that you understand what's going on. So without further ado, let's jump right into number 50. 50 through 46, De'Aaron Fox, Donovan Mitchell, Al Horford, DeAndre Jordan, Nerlens Noel. 50. De'Aaron Fox. Fox's speed is what he's known for. While this skill is mostly intangible, it can be seen in his ability to create scoring opportunities for himself and others. His 6.8 assists per game ranks 17th in the league, and his 20.4 points per game rank 32nd. His speed also translates well through his 1.4 steals per game, which ranks 19th. His downfalls, as should be expected for a point guard that plays fast, are his turnovers and high usage rate. 49. Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell became the lowest rated All-Star on the list. His 24.2 points per game ranks 16th in the league, but that is his only stat that ranks in the top 35 in the league. His high usage rate and inability to create blocks and rebounds negate his other above-average stats, leaving him outside the top 45 in this NBA Top 100 list. Number 48. Al Horford. After joining the Sixers this offseason, it was unclear what his role would be alongside superstar big man Joel Embiid. After playing different roles, such as starting at power forward, playing backup center to Embiid, and starting at center for the injured Embiid, Horford has carved out a place in the top 50, in large part due to his defense. His top 3 ranked stats are defensive win shares, 28th, blocks, 45th, and defensive rebounds, 45th. His true shooting percentage was surprisingly one of his worst stats this season, ranking 326th in the league. 47. DeAndre Jordan. Jordan was another former All-Star to switch teams this offseason. As should be expected, his top 5 stats from this season were defensive rebound percentage, 9th, defensive rebounds per game, 17th, and true shooting percentage, 20th, offensive rebounds, 23rd, and offensive rebounding percentage, 35th. Rebounding and shooting percentages have always been the staple of Jordan's game. His inability to force steals and keep from committing fouls hurt him the most. 46. Nerlens Noel. Another under-the-radar player, Noel excelled in his role with the OKC Thunder. He ranked in the top 25 in true shooting percentage, 10th, blocks, 15th, block percentage, 16th, and box plus minus, 25th. Because he is just that, a role player in OKC, parts of his game are unneeded for the team. This causes his assist numbers, as well as his 2.6 fouls per game, to drag down his ranking on this list. 45 through 41. Ricky Rubio, Zach LaVine, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, LaMarcus Aldridge, Brandon Ingram. 45. Ricky Rubio. After a surprising start to their season, the Suns soon fizzled out behind injuries and suspensions. However, their overall record does not negate the solid season that Rubio put together. His 8.9 assists per game land him at 3rd in the league. He also ranks well in assist percentage, 7th, and steals, 15th. Being a primary ball handler on a below-average team comes with a high number of turnovers. This became his biggest blemish for this NBA Top 100 list. 44. Zach LaVine. LaVine had a borderline breakout season this year. He was in contention for the All-Star game after averaging 25.5 points per game and 1.5 steals per game. He may have missed the cut this season, but he's trending in the right direction. His 3.4 turnovers per game and high usage rate on a bad team were his main downfalls. 43. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. SGA showed his worth on a surprisingly good Clippers team last season, and his stint with the Thunder has been no different thus far. The majority of his stats across the board were above average of this year, including defensive win shares, 24th, win shares, 32nd, and points, 43rd. None of his stats have been notoriously bad, but his low-ranked categories include offensive rebounding and usage rate. 42. LaMarcus Aldridge. In his 14th season, Aldridge remains among the league's elite. His 1.6 blocks per game rank him 11th in the league. He's also top 50 in both offensive and defensive rebounds per game, with 1.9 and 5.5 respectively. His high usage rate and poor steal percentage and assist percentage keep him out of the top 40. 41. Brandon Ingram. Another first-time All-Star appears outside the top 40 on this list. Ingram had a breakout season as he averaged 24.3 points per game and good for 15th in the league. His offensive breakout is a big reason the Pelicans were competing for the 8th seed in the West. Improving his turnover rate is the category that would help Ingram the most. 40 through 36. Fred VanVleet, Kristaps Porzingis, Kemba Walker, Devin Booker, Pascal Siakam. Number 40. Fred VanVleet. The Raptors guard had an incredible final series against the Warriors last season, and he carried his stellar play into the 2020 season. His 1.9 steals per game rank him third in the league, and his 6.6 assists are also top 20. His rebounding rates are his biggest downfalls, but these are obviously not fatal, as VanVleet snuck his way into the top 40 of our NBA Top 100. Number 39. Kristaps Porzingis. After a terrible injury a few seasons ago, Porzingis started this season on a new team with a superstar, playmaking sensation Luka Doncic. This pairing clearly helped Porzingis find his groove. With Doncic running the offense, Porzingis could use his length and shooting to be the perfect sidekick. He ranked 6th in blocks with 2.1 per game and 16th in defensive rebounds with 7.7 per game. His fouls and lack of steals or assists are his lowest ranked stats. 38. Kemba Walker. Now we start to get into the thick of the All-Star participants with Celtics star Kemba Walker. He's in elite company, ranking in the top 35 in box plus minus, 18th, points, 26th, offensive win shares, 33rd, and win shares, 34th. Being a 6-foot-tall guard, it is understandable that his rebounding stats are his lowest. However, at this point in the list, the lowest ranking stats are either less important or negated by the high ranking stats. 37. Devin Booker. Replacing the injured Damian Lillard, Booker became one of many first-time All-Stars after being dubbed one of the biggest snubs originally. His 26.1 points and 6.6 assists per game speak for themselves. Booker's offense is elite. However, his 3.9 turnovers per game rank outside the top 500 players in the league this year, dropping him lower on this NBA Top 100 list. 36. Pascal Siakam. Siakam burst onto the scene of stardom last season and proved that it wasn't a fluke this season. Injuries and usage rate being his biggest negatives, Siakam ranks in the top 25 in defensive win shares, 11th, points, 17th, and defensive rebounds, 23rd. Not only was he a first-time All-Star this season, he was also voted as a starter in the big game. 35 through 31. Jrue Holiday, DeMar DeRozan, Khris Middleton, Jonas Valanciunas, and Jarrett Allen. 35. Jrue Holiday. Consistently one of the most underrated players in the game, Holiday once again ranks among the league's elite. He's top 10 in steals per game at 1.7 and top 15 in assists per game at 6.9. His consistent scoring contribution at 19.6 per game is another star-level attribute of his game. The lowest ranking stat on his resume is his 2.9 turnovers per game. 34. DeMar DeRozan. DeRozan has had a subpar season compared to his usual All-Star standards. However, he still ranks among the top 40 in the league in several stat categories, including offensive win shares, 12th, win shares, 21st, points, 23rd, assists, 30th, and PER, 40th. His high usage rate and lack of blocks are among his worst stats. 33. Khris Middleton. Middleton made his second consecutive All-Star appearance behind another productive season. His 21.1 points per game are ranked 27th in the league, and that's only his 5th highest ranked stat. His defensive win shares on an elite defensive team are his highest ranked stat at 14th in the NBA. However, his block and block percentage are among his 5 worst ranked stats. 32. Jonas Valanciunas. Valanciunas is an often forgotten center in the league, especially after he was traded from Toronto to Memphis. In the 2020 season, he ranked 10th in both offensive and defensive rebounding, as well as 21st in win shares. His steals average is low, but not low enough to knock him out of the top 35 players in this NBA Top 100 list. 31. Jarrett Allen. The Nets' young big man quietly had one of the better seasons in the league. He finished in the top 30 in offensive rebounds, 3, win shares, 7.1, defensive win shares, 2.8, offensive win shares, 4.3, and blocks, 1.3. His elite numbers around the rim make him one of the best young big men in the league, especially if he can reduce some of his fouls per game, his lowest ranked stat. 30 through 26. Montrezl Harrell, Clint Capela, Steven Adams, John Collins, Kyle Lowry. 30. Montrezl Harrell. If I told you at the beginning of the season that the second highest Clipper on this list was not named Paul George, you'd call me crazy. However, in stellar campaign coming off the bench, Montrezl Harrell proved once again that he was a valuable asset during the Los Angeles Clippers-Houston Chris Paul trade. His top 25 win shares, 17th, offensive win shares, 19th, and offensive rebounds, 21st, proves his stock as an elite offensive threat. The biggest hit on his ranking is his high usage rate. However, this comes with an asterisk compared to the other player in the top 30, considering Harrell was leading a bench unit. 29. Clint Capela. Capela was on the wrong end of the most well-known trade from this season, when the Rockets ditched their only rotation player above 6'7". Nevertheless, he finished second in offensive rebounds at 4.3 per game, and in the top 10 in both defensive rebounds, 9.5, and blocks, 1.8. His elite activity around the rim solidified Capela as an easy candidate for the NBA Top 100, despite his lack of games played. 28. Steven Adams. Adams was a big part of one of the most surprising teams in the league this year. He was the perfect counterpart to the guard trio of Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Dennis Schroeder. He averaged 3.4 offensive rebounds per game, good for 6th in the league, and ranked highly in many other intangible measures, like defensive win shares, 28th, and offensive win shares, 29th. His high turnover averages and rate were his biggest downfalls, which is unusual for a big man. 27. John Collins. The young high flyer is a core piece to the Hawks' rebuild. This season he showed some flashes as to why. His 1.6 blocks, 2.8 offensive rebounds, and 7.3 defensive rebounds per game land him at 11th, 16th, and 19th in the league respectively. Missing 25 games to suspension was perhaps the worst part of his resume, but he also averaged a below-average 3.4 fouls per game. 26. Kyle Lowry. Lowry lands as the last player outside of the top 25, the 7th all-star in this group. His assist stats were once again elite, causing him to be 7th in the league in assists and 23rd in offensive win shares. He also ranked in the top 20 in defensive win shares, 19th, and total win shares, 6.9. Naturally, Lowry acquired a high usage rate and a few turnovers per game, but his biggest downfalls were his lack of rebounding and rate of accumulating fouls. Stay tuned for the next NBA Top 100 piece that will bring you players 25 through 11.